Good afternoon, everybody. Sachin is a hard act to follow, but I will do my best. At the outset, thank you for having me here. It's not very often that I get to Hyderabad. It is even less often that I get to address a gathering as large and as impressive as this, and that too on a subject of developing and developers. This is not an audience that I have ever addressed before. So please excuse me if I'm a little bit like a fish out of water. I will gradually find my footing. I wasn't exactly sure what I was supposed to be doing here, given that I don't belong to a national party like Sachin does, so I can't even tell you that you must engage with me because one day I might be sitting in office, because I probably won't. So leave that, okay? I haven't been a union minister since 2002. And even then, I was in the External Affairs Ministry, which had very little to do with the developers and the building fraternity. So even that doesn't count. But then it occurred to me that this is actually the Kashmir connection, for whom I have to thank CVRE and particularly Anshuman and Raka, because they are the ones who were instrumental in bringing me here. And I actually asked them, what is it that you want me to talk about? They said, well, actually what is happening today is that the second generation, third generation of the developing fraternity are not as enamored with this industry as their fathers, their grandfathers, or their parents, their predecessors would like them to be. And I can empathize with that. I can understand that. So I'm not going to stand here and talk to you about how the developing community should work, what you should do to establish a footprint in the country. You know your industry better than I do, better than I ever will. As I wouldn't expect you to lecture me as a politician as to what I should be doing to be a better politician, I'm the last person who should be lecturing you and telling you how you can be a better developer. So let's set that aside. What I can do is try and correlate my life experience with what you're going through now. And I do understand that the developer fraternity, your industry, is going through an extremely difficult phase. The last 3 or 4 years have been very difficult, and at difficult times like these, the industry looks less glamorous, less appealing than it would when times are good. But the problem with times are that it's like the stock market. If we could tell when the bottom is going to be, we would all dive in and buy. And if we could tell when it's going to reach the top, then we would all sell. But we don't. And the same is true for good times and bad times. We don't know when the next set of bad times is going to be around the corner. And we don't know when the bad times are going to end. So those of us who sit back and say, well, actually, wait, I'm not going to get into this industry right now. I'll wait for times to get better. Well, the wait could be extremely short. Or in my case, the wait could be extremely long. I graduated college way back 92, 93, so I am definitely over the age limit that you have set for yourself with the 40-year mark. Sachin just about scrapes in. And unlike the gentleman that he referred to in his speech, I can't even look like I am under 40 because I definitely look over 40 now. So leave that aside. The point I'm trying to make is that I have now been in active politics for 20 years. I first got elected to Parliament on the 10th of March, 1998. So I've had 20 years now of being a representative both in Parliament and in the Assembly. And none of those 20 years have been easy for Jammu and Kashmir. So imagine if I had said back in 98 that, look, times are bad in the state, I'll wait for things to get better, and then I'll look at the possibility or the option of a career in politics, I would still be waiting. We often hear these words and they sound very glib, that tough times don't last, but tough people do. It's absolutely true. The amount you learn in adversity, you will never learn in good times. And therefore, for those of you who are in a state of flux, not sure what you want to do with your lives, not sure whether this is the time or the place that you want to get involved in this line, all I can tell you is that from my experience, don't wait for what will be, in your perception, the perfect time. Because perfection is an illusion. It never comes about. You can create a perfect environment from within. If you wait for others outside of your realm to create that perfection for you, it's not going to happen. And therefore, all I can tell you is, as a third generation, not all of us are cut out to follow on from our grandfathers, fathers, our mothers or our grandmothers, because this industry is not just male-dominated. I'm really glad to see that I wouldn't say it's an equal number, but there is a healthy number of women in this forum as well. It shows that building is not the sort of sexist monolith that perhaps some people perceive it to be. So, coming back to the point I was trying to make, being a third generation practicing politician, not all of us are cut out to follow on from our forefathers. Every politician's son or daughter is not naturally a politician, as every actor's son or daughter is not necessarily an actor. Every sportsman's son or daughter is not necessarily a sportsman. Different people find different things. It's only in this case that you have two politicians here who have sort of made the transition. And I can speak for Sachin as well. Both of us have looked at other avenues before coming into politics. It's not as if politics was our first and only sort of port of call. He educated in the US, looked and worked in the private sector. I did my graduation from Mumbai University, then worked with Oberoi Hotels. I forgot, I did have a brief period of work with real estate development. I worked with a wing of ITC called Landbase, which developed Laburnum complex in Gurgaon and then the classic golf resort. So I have a little bit, I'm sorry, I should have started with that I'm one of you. I've actually worked in the developing industry, but be that as it may. The point I'm trying to make is that, look, shop around, look around, consider your options, but don't rule out the option of following on from what your forefathers have done, because there is no substitute for the practical learning experience you will have just being with your families, being with the people in your family who are from this particular industry. Nothing I could have been taught in school or college or university would be nearly as much as what I learned just sitting with my dad or sitting with other relatives, sitting with colleagues of a slightly older age than mine. And therefore, while you may not appreciate it now, you are already sort of beyond graduates. You are postgraduates in an industry where it is very difficult to learn the ropes. Coming in from outside, understanding the technicalities, the laws, the procedures, everything else that goes along with this industry is an extremely difficult thing to do. And therefore, you have an opportunity that perhaps others who would like to be a part of this industry don't have. So don't discount the wealth that experience brings for you, and particularly the experience that your parents or your grandparents or whoever it is founded the companies that you are naturally drawn to. That really is the message that I have come here with, which is that, yes, at this point in time, possibly your industry doesn't project the rosiest picture, but that is no reason why you shouldn't get involved with it, because you are the ones who will turn it around. And as was rightly pointed out earlier, you're not just building for yourselves, you're building for India. You're not just developing for yourselves, you're developing India. What you do will leave a mark long after you're no longer in this room, long after we no longer occupy this planet. There are buildings that your forefathers have built in various cities around the country that continue to stand and will stand long after we have left this world. So don't underestimate your ability to make a positive difference, make a positive contribution, and build the India of your dreams. Set aside what political dispensation you choose to follow, what political beliefs you have. We are human beings, we are designed to disagree with each other. But on one thing we can definitely all agree, that we would like to hand over to our children a better India than our parents have handed over to us. And in that, whether we are politicians, whether we are builders or developers, whatever our line may be, if that is the goal that we set ourselves, that finally when I'm laid to rest on my last day on earth, if I can be satisfied that yes, I have done enough to hand over to my children a better India than I inherited from my parents or my grandparents, I think that is enough satisfaction that we can draw, and that is what we should all work towards. I have been told that there is a question-answer session that's going to be moderated after this. I love question answer. In fact, if anything, if I hadn't been told that there was going to be a moderated question answer session, I had every intention of coming here, speaking to you for about 4 minutes, then taking a mic and throwing it open to the floor. Given that it is now going to be a moderated question answer, and I can see I've got about 9 minutes on my ticker still remaining, I'm going to spare those 9 minutes to add to the Q&A session, and let's see what comes up in that. But thank you very much for having me here.